All right, I would like to call this meeting to order. It is 6 o'clock. Thank you all for coming here this evening. We are going to start by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, my microphone is on. All right, next up is the adoption of the agenda, and we do have some changes on the agenda this evening. Down in the consent agenda part, we are going to remove item 6.03, which is the proposed career and technical education plan. We currently do not have the people here that would be presenting for that typically, and we would like to make more of a public presentation, so we're going to move that to a report and recognition in the July meeting. The other item that we are going to move is item 6.04 down to discussion and action items tonight. So those are the only proposed changes unless someone has some other change that I'm unaware of. And if not, is there a motion?
Move to adopt the agenda as changed.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda with those changes in the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the agenda has passed. And now we will go to our Assistant Superintendent, Brenda, who will give us the superintendent's report tonight as Wyeth is not here.
Thank you, President Davidson. I just want to say it's my honor to be here filling in for Superintendent Jesse this evening. He and Gretchen Maliska, our Career and Connected Learning Coordinator, are in Olympia receiving an award this evening for our academies. So this just solidifies what we're doing for our students and giving them pathways forward, and this will reaffirm our agreement with Mason Health, and we move forward and give our students more opportunities. So this is quite an honor for the Shelton School District this evening. I would also like to share summer school has kicked off and is in full swing. Students are being supported with whole child instruction. We're doing reading, writing, math, and social and emotional learning also. It's being held at Evergreen Elementary, Olympic Middle School, and Shelton High School. Special Services also has their extended school year program running alongside of that. All of the students are benefiting from the support to help the learning loss that they experienced during the pandemic over the last few years. Another exciting thing is the delivery of the books. You can see Mountain View's books are all in the back of the gym here. We have all of our books at all three elementaries and Olympic Middle School. They're being sorted right now to get out to the classrooms. So you'll see this year students carrying their books around with them. They'll be issued to them, bringing books home, so the parents should be asking them about their books. So that's really exciting stuff. And then on hiring, the district continues to recruit effective teachers and leaders. We're in full swing. We've been doing a great job reaching out to locations all across the nation to try and get the best staff that we can. We were well poised this year. We started the budget process a lot earlier than we ever have. And so that allowed us to start hiring early, and the HR department is really doing a great job. So we're right on track. Just a brief budget update. We are in full swing. The budget is due to Educational Service District 113 on July 10th, which is a Sunday, so we'll be submitting on July 11th. And then I most likely will be presenting the first round of budget to the school board at the last meeting in July. But things are moving along. We're just fine-tuning right now and balancing grants and that type of thing. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And it is really exciting to have our superintendent and our CTE director. They're getting an award tonight. So I think that's for the Health Academy, which has been, kind of the strong starting point of the academy. So that's great. All right, up next are community comments, and we do have 3 people that have signed up this evening for community comments, and anyone else who would like to dial in is welcome to do that as well. I will read the standard language around community comments, and then I will call each person up to the podium. As part of the regular school board meeting, the board invites community members to make public comments in person and/or by phone as conditions allow. If speaking in person, please follow the public comment procedure by signing in and stating your name and address at the podium when called by the board chair. If making comments by phone, please dial 1-253-215-8782 and enter meeting ID number 872-5618-1978. Each person is allowed 3 minutes to speak. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the board is not allowed to discuss items that are not on the agenda. The board will direct the superintendent to follow up on any items that arise during public comment as appropriate. The board will not allow complaints against an individual staff member or student in open session unless the individual has requested an open public hearing. So first up on the list is Radu Sumitra, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing names incorrectly.
No worries, no worries. All right, hello everybody, good to be here. My name's Radu Sumitra. I live at 920 Hiawatha Place South. And I'm here from One America. I'm the Education Coalition Manager. If you're unfamiliar with this organization, we're an immigrant refugee advocacy and civic engagement organization, and I do ed policy work and community organizing for them. So for the last couple months, I've been working in community with community members and educators at Shelton Public School to advocate for the dual language program, which is what I'm here to talk about once again today. Last time I came here, last board meeting, I spoke about the lack of community engagement regarding dual language by Shelton School District, and this time I do want to dive in a little deeper on that, but first I want to state the following. This past school year, 76 out of the 91 kindergartners at Evergreen Elementary were registered in the dual language program. This upcoming school year, we are limiting dual language to 40 slots, and to my knowledge, we've also shortened the window for dual language enrollment from March 1st to April 22nd. Currently, for those families that were able to register their student in that short enrollment window, there are 48 families who have registered their student for dual language. So that means that we're going to be denying 8 children from participating in an opportunity to make them bilingual and biliterate. The thing is, families were not formally notified, to my knowledge, about this change in enrollment capacity in any way. And that means that we're cutting enrollment by almost half without community knowledge. And that's a big problem in my opinion. In addition to this, during the 2014-15 school year, there were 451 designated English language learners in this district. And in the 2021 school year, there were 872 designated English language learners in this school district. Today, there's probably more. So the need for programs like dual language are clearly here. The demand is likely higher than we think. And as a district, I don't think we're doing an adequate job of informing the community, especially those furthest from educational equity, our Mom and Kanhobel speakers, about the opportunities their students have. And further, we're creating barriers for students to access these opportunities. I'm here to ask that all 48 students that have enrolled in dual language be allowed to participate next year. I understand not wanting to expand the program for fear of ensuring that we are doing a quality job by students, but I do not understand making the program smaller. The very last thing I want to say is, my family immigrated to the States in '95 from Romania. I was an English language learner throughout my educational career, especially in elementary. I was in pull-out English language development classes. They were not particularly effective. But I did learn to be, competent in the English language. And I've also taught public school, 9th grade language arts in Denver Public Schools. And a majority of my students were themselves immigrants and refugees. And once again, as a student and as a teacher, I saw that pull-out English language development classes do not really work. Something like dual language is innovative, and it's a long-term investment in students. Yes, there are some issues with third grade test scores for students that participate in this program, but that's because we are talking to students that, you know, growing up are completely new to the English language. So I ask that you allow all 48 students to participate in dual language next year, and I ask that we remove this artificial cap on dual language because it is a proven way to effectively advocate and teach our immigrant and refugee students. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Adi Villalobos. Okay.
I'm not sure if you're going to have your clock up there.
We've got a clock here,
Okay.
unless you would like to put one up.
Can you just give me a minute so I can set my clock, and that way I know. Okay. Okay, good evening, school board members and district staff. My name is Aida Villalobos, and I live at 3080 Hampton Drive Southwest in Tumwater. I am also an employee of Shelton School District for 10 years, working in the Evergreen Elementary dual language program, which is a Shelton School Board program as well. I am here to ask you, the board, to please place the dual language topic on the next agenda. You have heard, this is the fourth week of speakers speaking about concerns related to dual language, English learners, multilingual learners, families who speak other languages in relation to dual language. You've heard from former dual language students who have come back to advocate for the program. You have heard from their parents. You have heard from university professors whose expertise is in education, including multilingual learners. You have heard from staff members such as myself and others. Yet we have not heard from the board. What we've heard is silence. I believe that board members do have an obligation to serve the community. Everyone who has spoken is part of your community. Everyone who has been here present in support of the program is also part of your community. Last week, a community member in the audience asked, why is the program being reduced? The response from the board was that dual language was not part of the agenda, thus the question could not be discussed. So that brings up the question, why is the dual language program being reduced? I don't know why. And I'm a teacher in the dual language program. I teach Spanish half the day and English half the day. And I'm also wondering why it's being reduced. It's never been explained to us exactly why. Parents want to know, the ones that know, because most of them do not know that the program has been reduced. It's only been the Evergreen staff who has been told that the program is being reduced to 40 slots. This is a huge question in your community, in our community, and we want to know, so I am requesting to you, the board, to please have dual language the topic be on your next school board agenda so we can have a community discussion, we can have questions, we can discuss it. I'm not sure why it hasn't been already brought up to be placed on the agenda, because if I were a board member, I would be curious about, well, week after week we have people speaking about dual language. Let's find out. You know, what's going on, what the concerns are, and even go beyond that, like I've suggested before, bring someone from OSPI whose expertise is in dual language to perhaps provide a presentation to inform everyone about the program. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Socorro Valeda.
Good evening. My name is Socorro Villeda. I live at 425 Dearborn in Shelton, Washington, 98584. Last month, I stood up here as a parent of a Shelton High School student. My youngest son graduated a few weeks ago. So today I stand here as a community member concerned about the future of our community. We need to support and invest in the dual language program. Those are not only my words, but those are the words of the superintendent. That is what he said at a meeting that I had with him on April 26th. He also said that we need to make it a high-quality program again, which I also agree with. He also said we need to define what the dual language program is and decide what materials, curriculum, and resources are needed. He also said the dual language program is not going away, but the current pattern that I am seeing contradicts that statement. Reducing the evergreen enrollment into the dual language program to only 40 students conflicts with the statements that he said to me on April 26th. I want to know why the Shelton School District is shrinking the program when the demand is only increasing in our community. Each year. Ellen Short Sanchez and Erica Marbet and myself went to different locations to do surveys to families who are English learners. I gave you a copy of the survey results there. We asked them a series of questions, and in those surveys, we surveyed 106 people, and we went to 5 different locations. We started those surveys in 2021, and we finished them in 2022. The questions are on the first page, and the summary is on the second page. The consensus of all those surveys were that the families wanted their children in the dual language program, but they were not asked if they were interested in the program when they enrolled, or their students were put into the English-only program without their input on the subject. I think this issue stems from the lack of communication with the families. Written interpretation is not enough. Just because the school district translates information into Spanish and posts that information on the website, that doesn't mean that the families or the communities can understand what is being announced or even where to access this information. The school district needs to find another way to better communicate with our limited English proficient families in Mason County. This is a very important subject that we asked for at the English Language Learner Task Force meetings that I attended for 3.5 months earlier this year. Please change your method on how you communicate with our limited English proficient families, and please eliminate the 40 limit enrollment into the dual language program. Our community needs your support in these matters. And lastly, I would like to formally request that the dual language program be a topic on the next meeting's agenda. And if this is not the right way to request that, I would like to know how to formally request that to be added to the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. My mic wasn't on. All right, has anyone dialed in for community comments? No. All right. Oh, we have another community. Yeah, that is fine if you would like to come up to the podium and state your name and address.
Buenas tardes a
Good
todos.
afternoon to all of you.
Mi nombre es Leovigilda Hernández
My name is Leovigilda Hernandez,
y vivo en la 917W
and I
Franklin
meet
Street
at
de Shelton.
917 West Franklin Street in Shelton.
Como latinos, para mí es muy importante el español
As Latins, it's very important for me the Spanish language,
y la inmersión de doble idioma
And
aún
the-
lo es más importante
and the double immersion program is as well very important to me
porque nuestros hijos salen bilingües
because our children come out of that program
y
bilingual,
no se olvidan de nuestra cultura, que es un orgullo para nosotros.
and they do not forget of their culture, which is very important to us.
Estoy aquí porque quiero que reconsideren el idioma
I'm here
español
because I want you to reconsider the Spanish language
como antes porque la escuela Evergreen tiene todos los requisitos para hacerlo.
as before because the Evergreen School has all the resources to do that.
Tiene maestros, materiales y tal vez solo falta la capacitación.
It has teachers, material, and perhaps the only thing needed is a skill building.
El idioma español no solo les interesa a los padres latinos,
The Spanish language is not only interested to the Latin parents,
sino también a padres americanos, adultos que están interesados en aprender.
but also to American parents and adults who are interested in learning.
Sabemos qué queremos para nuestros hijos,
We know what we want for our children,
que estudien el doble idioma.
that they study a double language.
Ayúdanos a tenerlo.
Please help us have that program.
Ellos son el enlace con la sociedad.
They are the link to the society as a whole.
Así ellos verán la vida en el futuro desde otra perspectiva.
In that way, they can live life from a different perspective in the future.
Cuando lleguen a ser doctores, maestros, policías, chefs, etc.
When they become doctors, teachers, police officers, chefs, etc.
Ellos van a actuar o guiar de otra manera.
They'll act or guide in a different manner.
Muchas gracias por escuchar.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. We have an additional. Yes, you're welcome to come up and state your name and address at the podium, please. And you'll have 3 minutes.
Hola, mi nombre es Leticia Rojas y vivo en 50 es Cypress Court.
Hi, my name
aquí
is
en
Leticia
Shelton.
Rojas. I live in 50 East Rojas Road in Shelton,
No,
Washington.
Cypress Court.
Cypress Court in Shelton, Washington.
Yeah. Yo vengo a contar mi experiencia
I'm here to talk about my
con mis
experience
hijos.
with my
Yo
children.
tengo 5 hijos.
I have 5 children.
Ya no tengo más niños,
I don't have any
pero
more children.
estoy aquí para pedirles que sigan apoyando a
But
las personas
But I'm here to ask you to please continue supporting the people
con sus hijos para que sigan hablando los 2 idiomas.
with their children so that they can continue speaking both languages.
Yo estoy muy orgullosa porque los 5 de mis hijos hablan perfectamente español y perfectamente inglés.
I'm very proud because my children speak perfectly both English and Spanish.
Y me gustaría que esto siguiera a los demás niños
And I would like this to continue for
que
all
viven
the other
aquí.
children who live here.
Porque es una joya hablar español también.
Because it's a jewel to speak Spanish as well.
Porque nosotros como latinos,
Because us as Latin,
eso nos representa.
because that represents us.
Pero también yo estoy aprendiendo inglés y para mí también es una maravilla.
But I'm also learning English and to me it's marvelous
Entonces
as
yo
well.
me gustaría que siguieran apoyando a los niños para que sigan teniendo sus 2 lenguajes.
But I would like you to please continue supporting the
Muchas
children so that they
gracias.
can continue having both languages. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Is that it for community comments? It looks like we've reached everybody. All right. So we will go into reports and recognition. First up tonight is 5.01, report on alternative learning programs and an update on the vision of the future of choice with Stacy Anderson.
Good evening. Thank you all for having me here. I really appreciate the opportunity to present to you. So this is our annual report on the ALE programs, and ALE stands for Alternative Learning Experience. So the state guidelines mandate that we report yearly to the board on the ALE programs. And for many years, Choice has had these types of funding programs. ALE students actually generate a little bit more income per student, and so it's a little bit different funding model, but there's some different rules around it. For most years in the past, most of our students were funded under basic ed, but this year we've gone all ALE, so it's a little bit of a change for us. So you'll see in the report, one of the requirements is that we put up the annual head count and full-time equivalency count for our different programs. So this year we ran the Choice High School Day program, which was for 9th through 12th graders, and we had an average head count of 103 students in that program. For our independent learning program, which we put in place, we've had it for years, but we added to it to accommodate students that wanted an online option this year due to the pandemic. We had 42 students on average enrolled, a little over about 43. For our middle school program, on average, we were trying to keep it 15. We were a little under that on the average. And our Pathways program is for students that are, it was a Shelton High School situated program in the past, although it's a district program. Now it's located at Choice. And that is for students with significant special needs, ages 18 to 21, who do work preparation, and they get out in the community and do job shadows and internships, and it's really a neat program. So it is it's designed to be very small. So we had 7 students most of the year in that program. So as far as staffing, the goal at Choice, since I've been principal, has been to keep the staffing at a ratio of 1 to 20 head count. So you'll see there for the FTE this year, we are running 1 to 18.8. So when you look at the head count, which the difference is the number of students we can claim versus the number of students who are physically in the building, we were right around 1 to 20 for those 3 programs. And you're welcome to stop me for questions as I go. I know I speak fast too, but if you have any, just let me know. So when a student is in an alternative learning experience program, they have to have a written student learning plan developed for each student, so it's a very individualized program. So when a student applies to Choice, they go through orientation, and then they'll meet with an advisor to do a written student learning plan that's got a lot of components to it as mandated by the state. So the main components of it are the advisor looks at their graduation requirements, sets them up with courses, which can be in person, online, packets, or a hybrid model where they come in some days and stay home some days. They make sure that the student knows where they are towards graduation. They tell them how many credits they would have to earn per month or per trimester to graduate on time. And if they have an individual education plan, we try to do a meeting with the sending school to be able to make sure we understand the IEP before they enroll. So once they have their student learning plan set up and they've signed all their enrollment paperwork, they get to start with us. So most of our students do attend during the day, and they have kind of a 6-period day like other schools do. But they also have options for credit recovery and credit accrual through Fuel Ed if they have gotten behind in credits. Like the 40 students this year who we had in the online program this year, it was entirely online. And next year we're going back to our old model, which is students will be coming in 12 hours a week to work on their independent courses, so they have lots more contact with staff, and then they do the rest of their work at home. So when the students doing their classes, whether it's in person or online, they meet every day with their advisor if they're on campus, and if they are at home, they have to meet with their instructor through Zoom. And then every month they have a check-in with the student, the guardian, and the advisor, which is a really neat process because most schools get to do conferences twice a year. We do them monthly so the students know right where they're at. They can get makeup work, they can turn in late work if they need to, and we monitor their progress. So if they're passing 5 out of 6 of their classes in person, or they've accomplished at least a third of their assigned Fuel Ed classes for online, they're in good standing. Now, if they're not in good standing, they're placed on academic probation, and we're required by law to put interventions in place within 5 days. So those interventions might look like you have to come to school some extra time. Say you're an online student, we want you to now come in more hours. It could be you come to tutoring at the school. Maybe you need to change in your program. Maybe you need a referral to a counselor because anxiety is getting in your way. So we look at what are the interventions, those are documented, and then you go to your next month of classes and we follow up on it periodically throughout the month. After 3 months, ALE law requires that we would have to substantially change the student's program if they're not making adequate progress. So that keeps us from having students that are just kind of floating along and maybe not doing well. That doesn't necessarily mean we have to put them into a different school, although sometimes we might recommend a return to their comprehensive high school. It might be a better fit for them. But it might mean that we move an online student into the full-day program, or it might mean we go the other direction. Might have to cut a student's schedule back. We have some students with really high anxiety, for example, and this year I had a student who went from a 6-period day to a 4-period day because she was so terrified to come to school in the morning, and when she had 4 periods, she could handle it. Next year, we're pushing her back to the 6-period day. So those 2 periods she was at home weren't just free time. She had 2 courses that she was doing from home. So like I mentioned, next year, the students in the independent learning program will be required to come in person for at least 12 hours a week, unless they have a significant health issue that they have to be home. So we'll still be offering online options, but for students that want a fully online option in our district, and they just don't want to be on campus at all, we are recommending that they find another one of the online options in the state, because our data all shows historically that the online students really do earn the least amount of credit of all of our programs. Let's see. For the district's overall goals, I'm not going to go into every single one of these. I know you guys have read the report. But with the new strategic plan goals, you know, just like all the other schools, Choice is required to be working towards those goals. For English language arts being one of our main goals of students being able to pass their 3rd and 7th grade English language arts assessment, and of course at the high school level being able to pass the the Smarter Balanced Assessment at the end. We have all of our students have access to core ELA instruction aligned to the state standards and with the same curriculum available as the other buildings in our district. But we also have reading interventions, Read 180 and System 44, which some of the other buildings have, but we've been lucky to be able to have students enrolled in both of those programs as needed. We also use SRI to measure their comprehension, try to do that 3 times a year. And we also do Easy CBM for the 7th and 8th graders. Fuel Ed will read aloud to the students if they're having trouble understanding it, so that's another option for them with their ELA scores. As far as the trying to increase the graduates in the college and career readiness track, we're really lucky we have a GARUP grant. So we have 1 full-time staff member and 1 part-time staff member whose whole job is to help students understand from 7th grade on what the requirements are for their high school and beyond plan, how to get into college or a career of their choice, help them pass those requirements, do their FAFSA as seniors. And so that's been a really awesome grant for us. They get to visit colleges, and not so much in the last 2 years. We did virtual college visits. But next year, for example, almost all students will have an opportunity to go visit a college in person. And then for the juniors and seniors, we're going to tailor their field trips to the colleges that they're interested in. So they really get to go more specifically. It might be just a van load of kids that want to go see Northwest Indian College or the Seattle Art Institute, so they can go see those specific things they're interested in. We also have senior advisors who work with those students every day. We have a 30-minute advisory every day, so they get a little more advising than a lot of the schools are able to do. And they go through their graduation requirements, their waivers, all those information so that the students can be ready to graduate. And we are hoping to add another CTE pathway on our campus in the future. That's one of our gaps right now, is we have 1 CTE pathway, but we'd like more that our students can accomplish and do to be able to get ready. This ties into my next topic on the agenda, but as we're looking forward to the vision of choice for the future, we really are seeing that most of our students are going to 2-year colleges or into the world of work or the military after high school. We don't have a lot who are looking at 4-year college right now. Most of those students are selecting Cedar or Shelton High School. So we really are going to be focusing on how do we get them the most jobs in the community that are high paying and fruitful jobs that they can go into, or can they go to Clover Park Technical School, find something that's going to be the right fit for them. So that's going to be a big focus of our future. Increasing the number of 9th graders who are on track with credits. Again, our students have those advisories for 30 minutes. They focus on the high school and beyond program. They're able to give every student time to look at their grades each week. Those GARUP seminars are really positive, and again, those students have those monthly check-ins, so when a student's getting behind, their parent knows right away. And we do have those interventions they can come into. For our discipline rate, we have, like the other student schools, we've implemented MTSS and PBIS, which, in case you're not aware of those acronyms, you probably are, but multi-tiered systems of support and positive behavior intervention services. We do a yearly assessment of in all the schools called the TFI, and our scores keep raising up incrementally as we implement more of this. And I won't go through all of these, but we do fun things like awards for the kids when they're doing well, and we try to catch kids doing things, maybe especially those kids that aren't always noticed. I had a kid, this year tell me, this is the first award I've ever received, and they're a junior in high school. So it's not because the other schools aren't giving awards, but a lot of our kids have attendance issues or things like that to where they just haven't been there when those things are happening. So we do some field trips for students, those that are doing well and are on good standing. We have regular student support team meetings for those students that need more support. And sometimes we talk about choice. If you've ever seen the pyramid of MTSS, most schools, they have, like 70% of their students are in tier 1, so they're doing okay, and then you've got the yellow tier, and that's maybe, 20%, and then you've got 10%. Oftentimes in an alternative school, it's kind of flipped upside down. You have a really small percentage of your students who are really doing well on track. This year we had, to start the year, more than 80% of our students were significantly behind in credit. So that's who we're drawing, so that's what we're really trying to wrap supports around them. We really do want to have more mental health supports for our students too, so that's something we're incorporating into our vision. And then increasing our daily attendance rate. We have a truancy coordinator 2 hours a day, which has been really helpful. We have incentives for good attendance. We keep the class sizes really small, like we try to keep it at 20-to-1, so students feel known, and our attendance rate was up over 71%, which doesn't sound like a lot. It sounds really low, but when you look at the comparison of what it's been in the past, when I met with Marianne Marshall and Superintendent Jesse at the beginning of the year, we decided 70 was going to be our goal, and we achieved that, so we were excited. And then we expect to have 39 graduates by August 31st, which they're in summer school right now trying to finish up those last few kids. So I was there today talking to them. And then I didn't put details about our SBA scores in there. We don't really have a lot of great, longitudinal data right now based on the pandemic. So, overall I would just say I've been at Choice a lot of years, and it's really, these opportunities that we give to students who maybe aren't succeeding in another school setting. I actually had lunch today with a former Choice teacher who was actually, you may not know, we had a national or a state teacher of the year here at Choice who was runner-up for national teacher of the year about 15 years ago. And she was talking about just how important Choice is for those kids that just don't have the right fit somewhere else. So I feel like we've got a lot of work to do still, but we're making progress in the right direction. So any questions on the ALE report?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, a couple of questions. I just wanted to clarify, back in the part of the presentation where you were talking about students having a check-in appointment with their advisor and parent or guardian, and the hope was that a student was passing 5 out of 6 classes or completed approximately 1/3 of their assigned fuel ed courses. I'm assuming that also means completed and passed?
Right.
Not
yeah.
just, okay.
So when they do the check-in, we've debated about this for years, should it have to be 6 out of 6 classes they're passing to be in good standing? Should it have to be 5 out of 6? If they're passing their 5 out of 6 classes all year long, they'll have enough to graduate. It's the minimum. And then with those fuel ed classes, what we do is we give them pacing guides. So say they're doing online geometry. The teacher gives them a guide, you have to get through this many units, and we know during the pandemic, especially with K-12 and everything, kids are not the best at pacing themselves at home. So if they're not achieving those, they haven't gone through about 1/3 of their course after that first month, then they're on academic probation where we might ask them to come in for more hours, because maybe they just need more time in the building to, be held accountable instead of doing what they do at home.
But completed would also imply that they had to have, passed that
right
as well.
Right. To be clear, to be really clear, with the completion of the fuel ed, you don't complete it until you've passed it.
Okay.
So you have to complete it at this year we've been allowing it at 60% for a D level, but in the past we've kept it at 70% that you have to get a C or better on those courses. So we need to look as a district again, that's one of the things we haven't looked at for a while is, as a district, where do we want to go with our fuel ed completion rate? Because it used to be 70%, but given the pandemic, we decreased it.
Okay, and then one other question. Toward the end, talking about decreasing discipline rate, you talked about the MTSS, the PBIS, weekly SEL lessons. There's also a separate item for, would like to see more options for mental health support. So I guess I'm wondering if you're seeing those as two different issues, and that's why they're separated, one as SEL, one as mental health support, or is one just an add-on to the first one?
I think it's all kind of the whole picture, of the student. So what we're seeing with our students, and it's just increased year after year after year, and we have one of our counselors here, a friend of mine, Susie, who works with these kids all the time. It's like the mental health needs are just exploding, especially during the pandemic. So while we're doing these weekly SEL lessons, social emotional lessons, which are great, and it's giving the kid, that's kind of a tier 1 intervention. All the kids are getting that in their core classes. We have those kids that are just struggling with anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts. I've had kids with discipline issues where this is honestly the first year I've ever had so much of this, where I would address a student, say in the hallway, who just wasn't going to class, and I would talk to them, hey, let's get you in class. Is there an issue we need to talk about? What's going on? Total silence. They would just ignore me and keep walking. And that's something I hadn't experienced in my career much, and it's happening a lot. So then it's like, okay, well, there's something going on with that kid. They're not just, most kids want to learn, they want to be there, they want to do well. So what we're finding is there's a couple barriers to getting kids into mental health services. One is we have contracts with True North, but like this year, they ran out of slots in like February, March, something like that. We can't take any more mental health students.
Yes.
That was our only contract. So then we're looking at BHR and some of the other places. Kids who want to access, I had a student who wanted to access mental health, but she didn't want her parent to know. Well, to access True North, they have to use their insurance. So there's some gaps there for those kids that we really, really need to address. And Superintendent Jesse addressed it this year with there was a person who was a social worker that was working at both Choice and Shelton High School, but within the first 2 weeks, we had overloaded her with the number of cases we wanted to give her. The idea was 3 to 4 at Choice, and I think 8 or 9 at Shelton High. I mean, that's what she could take, but that's a drop in the bucket for the kids that we have what we need. Did that answer your question?
I think so.
It's more of a tier 2 and 3 intervention, getting the kids into that those specific mental health support.
Okay, so more of a tier 1 and 2 versus the SEL being more of a group or society kind of thing.
Yeah.
The mental health support more of an individual.
Exactly. Like the SEL lessons are one that you do in your advisory, so you might bring up a lesson that's like, let's talk about goal setting today, or let's talk about stress reduction techniques. Whole class gets that. That's great. But if you've got a kid, we did a survey this year that both Choice and Cedar did, where we asked students to identify their mental health issues, and like that one student I was telling you about that just kind of used to ignore me in the hallway, we asked them to rate themselves on a 1 to 5, as far as 5 being severe depression and anxiety. She rated herself a 5. I had no idea, because what it was presenting as is defiance. I'm not going to talk to you. You can't make me do anything. So when I did that survey with her, I found out, wow, this kid is really hurting beyond the outside stuff. So then trying to have more services for those tier 2 and 3 kids that really need those more direct services.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yep.
And I would add that just unfortunately out in the healthcare community right now, there's wait lists for mental health services of all kinds. So when it's just something that is in need all around. Matt, did you have any questions at all, or are you?
No, I was just, if you're doing half of what you listed off in your report, God bless you. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Yes, and I would just add that in the 7 years that I've been on this school board, I've always been impressed by your leadership at Choice, and always impressed with the students that I get to meet there, whether that's at any function that your school has done. It used to be the fun Halloween things or the street fair, but also graduation, when we truly get to hear some of the individual stories and the challenges that many of the students face. Your school, the staff has been incredible, and I just want to say that I wish you the best in your next adventure, and you will definitely be missed, but you've been amazing here as well, so thank you for everything that you've done.
Thank you, I really appreciate that. And I just, want to say that, well, there's a couple things to add on to what you said there. Thank you. As far as the vision of where we're going with Choice in the future, Superintendent Jesse did want me to talk just briefly about that. He and Marianne Marshall and I worked together on a charge document that just basically says where we're going with Choice, and he's given us until the end of November, working with the staff. We have a consultant we're working with to really, make sure Choice has its role in the district. Now that there's Cedar and Shelton High, what is our role for the kids? So some of those things I mentioned about visioning, we're really moving forward on that process, which is exciting. And as far as personally, I just want to say thank you to the board. It has been 26 years I've been in this district. It's been the only district I've been at. I passionately love Choice. It's been a really hard decision to leave. But I would just say that, this district has supported our alternative school, and it's been here. We're going on, this will be our 39th year coming up. And the number of kids that have reached out to me and just said, how amazing the school was for them, how it's still a family for them. And a lot of those kids just probably wouldn't have graduated without Choice. So I thank the board for continuing to support us. And I told the kids, once a cat, always a cat. So I'll be around. I'm not leaving the community. So I'll be at their graduation and around. So thank you all for the support.
Yeah, thank you, Stacy. We look forward to seeing you at those events then too. All right, next up for reports and recognition is the procedure for policy number 4218, Language Access Plan Update with Marianne Marshall.
All right, good evening, Presidents Davidson and distinguished members of the board. In your board packet, you should have got a copy of a drafted up update on where we would like to go with our policy 4218 under procedures language access plan. And this procedure is intended to implement the policy, which establishes a meaningful two-way communication between the district and parents with limited English proficiency so that they have access to things like programs and services and activities throughout the district. This isn't touching on the dual language program. This isn't touching on EL services. It's just surveying our families to ensure that they have access in the languages supports that they need. And so within that document, there are a couple handfuls of changes that we made. One of the first ones that stands out is that conducting a survey with our families as far as what is their, what language access services they need. We always do that in our enrollment packets, but now we're going to add that to our back to school packets as well every year. We're also going to make sure we do this, but in the procedures, schools also will maintain current records of primary languages spoken by students' parents, but we will also maintain a copy of that at the district as well. We're going to make sure that our interpreters here in the district, you'll see in the procedure that we're going to provide them annual training with a certificated interpreter translation service person. And there's just a couple other small things, like I said, a handful of things, but we did go through this procedure to update it, and we went through the Office of Civil Rights just to get their feedback on this procedure. And so they've seen this, they've approved this, and see that it is good to go, but wanted to make sure that you guys had a copy of it. I'm open for any questions if you have any.
Sandy, you look like you might have a question already.
Page 3, third bullet, on an annual basis, and I wonder if anybody has any idea what time of the year. Would that be another, would that be at the end of the year, mid-year?
Yeah, so when we talk about an annual basis, so just recently at our admin retreat, we trained all of our administrators in the district on how to access interpretation services. And then when we go to our summer summit, we'll also, for our certificated and classified staff in the district, before school starts, we want to make sure that everyone is aware how to access interpretation and translation services within the district if they need that support.
All right, thank you. Sounds like a good time. That way you catch newly hired staff and they can get trained as well. So
yeah,
good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I guess I've got a question, just because I know that, looking at some of the data, we've got we've got a large portion of families who might speak Mum or Conchabal, and I'm being told that, there's sometimes not a lot written for that. So how are the translation services for that? Is that through this phone system?
That's one of the ways, but that's one of the ways. That's if there isn't an interpreter available, then they would have that phone service. But it's not something we want to use as a first priority, but just in case we don't have an interpreter, we do have that available.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's multiple ways to have those services.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions that anyone has at this time?
I guess following up to that, there's the paragraph that says the district will provide a written translation of vital documents for each LEP group that consists or constitutes at least 5% of the district's total parent population. So how many languages does that, or how many languages do we have that reach that 5% threshold?
I can definitely get back to you with that information. I know we do Mum and Conchabal and Spanish is our three main ones here in the Shelton School District.
And they each on their own reach that 5% level?
I would follow back up. I'll follow back up with you on the percentage so that you have an accurate, detailed information on that.
I'm sorry.
And I don't believe that there's any action on this. This is just a reading of the policy. So if there are not any other questions, we will move into the consent agenda.
Not a question. It could be a suggestion, and I know, board approval is not required on this, but you made the comment that this had been reviewed and approved by the Civil Rights Office. That could be a nice little note at the end of the policy. I know when we do other policies and whatnot, it'll oftentimes reference RCWs and WACs and other pertinent information. That might be a handy tidbit to have
on the ending part of that page.
Yeah, on that last page.
I wrote that down. Thank you, Sandy. All right. Thank
All right, thank you, Mary Ann. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda, which now includes 6.01, 02, 05, and 06. Are there any questions, comments, or a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I'll second.
It's been approved, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the consent agenda has passed as amended. So now going into the discussion and action items, we do have the proposed district surplus, and Brenda is going to speak to any questions we might have on that. We were given a pretty extensive list within our board packet of lots of line items by school that are on the proposed surplus. Are there any questions on that?
As I looked at that, I did have a couple.
And is your microphone on?
Yes.
Or you might want to talk into it a little bit more.
All right. I remember the first night being instructed, don't move the microphones.
Yes.
I tried not to. I will sit up straight. Okay. Let me pull this up here on the screen, but thinking forward to the fact that we may be looking in the next year or so to adopt some curriculum on health and sex ed. So I was looking at this with that in mind. And one of the things that I noticed was, there are some presumably old curriculum items on here. Things that I don't recognize. I believe they've been probably approved before my time. Or maybe they were items that, for whatever reason didn't require board approval. One of the things that caught my eye was, number one, a few of the things that appeared curriculum related were in excellent condition. So my question was, did we buy for more students than we ended up having? Or were they, underutilized? So that's one thought. And I realize these may not be questions that you can answer right here off the top of your head. I'm fine with that, but I'm just going to kind of go down some of the thought processes that I had as I reviewed the list. One of the curriculum was, I think, Government Alive. And that caught my eye because I think I've been on the board and we approved History Alive. And I thought part of the interest in History Alive was that it was very similar to Government Alive. And so, I'm kind of trying to figure out why are we getting rid of Government Alive? I don't know what its date is or how outdated it may have become. So I'm wondering if that one, outdated by X amount of time. I'm thinking, how about History Alive? What is its future expectation? It's another one that I wondered about. I'm pleased to say that we don't have, or as I look through the list, I don't see a lot of things on the list that are, excellent shape, maybe never having been opened. There may be one or two of those things and things can happen, but I know, we've been shoppers down at the state surplus, and, it really does break your heart to go down there and see stuff that school districts spent money on and it's still in its wrappers and it's being surplused. So I don't get the sense that there's a lot of that going on here. But on the other hand, I just want to think about this as we look to make future purchases so that we are making, the best purchases, asking the right kind of questions about those purchases in the future. So
I think a lot of what you're seeing here, Sandy, too, we have a lot of movement in classrooms at Shelton High School. That's why their list is as big as it is. So as teachers started to move their classrooms, they realized the items that they no longer use or aren't approved curriculum any longer. So that's a lot of what happened at Shelton High School. Bruce is rearranging rooms so that your science teachers are together, your math teachers are together, so they can work collaboratively this year. So that's a lot of what we saw happen at Shelton High School. So.
Okay, all right.
So like they're cleaning up their classroom and making space as they move to something else, and a box that may have been sitting there for a while is now getting dealt with.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So then are we making space, are we looking to order more books in the high school to fill up the space that we're making space
Not
for?
at this time. We will be. We're starting on a whole new curriculum adoption process. I believe we have a consultant. I'm looking at Mary Ann because she's been working with them. So once we go start that curriculum adoption cycle, again, it's been on hold during COVID. We'll start looking at that, and you'll, of course, be involved as a board in that process.
I also think that what it sounds like from conversations that I've had, that there's been a push to really look at cleaning up some of the spaces where things have sat for quite some time. So it's, dealing with that, getting rid of it so that we can free up some space.
Yeah, and that's always a good thing, and I certainly understand that. As I looked at a couple of other things on the special education list and the ELC, I wondered if CTE would have any interest in that. I thought back to the Med Academy where some of the classes built that little car and, did modifications for a special needs child. And I wondered if they would have any interest in any of those items. There was a couple of things I thought, maybe they could adapt them for something.
Yeah, and they're welcome. We usually put this list out to the administrators too, so they can look through it. And if there is anything on there, even after you've surplused it, I can always pull it off that list before it goes to the surplus sale. And that's typically what we will do.
Okay.
I do have to send it to the ESD for 30 days for them to offer to other school districts at that same period of time. But that's required in law.
Okay. That really kind of summarizes it. I don't need to ask.
We had a lot this year, and it is related to the fact we're trying to clean up our spaces and get rid of some stuff that should have probably been taken care of a while back. So.
Yeah, Mountain View. That was not that was an interesting list. There was more curriculum and supports kind of things. And probably because Mountain View had been moved recently, they'd already gotten rid of a lot of the physical desks and chairs and room dividers and things like that you might normally see. But a couple of books were on there in particular, a series, and I wondered, is there any controversy around that particular series? It was, I think what caught my eye was the Boxcar Children. And is that just considered an old, outdated? I didn't look up the dates that they were written.
I can check with the principal on that and get back to you. I'm not aware of anything.
Are you saying we're old? Matthew and I read them as kids. So, yeah, and I don't know how
and we are
old
doing
they were
some,
when we were reading them.
Clean up for the new books to be able to come into, so that is a lot of probably what we're seeing happening there too.
I guess it just stuck out because there weren't a whole lot of other books being cleaned out, but again, we had just done
a
cleanup with the reconfiguration. So.
Yes.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions at this time? All right, are we okay with moving, because it is recommended for approval, and I think the process then, once we approve this, Brenda does get to then send that list to OSPI and to the other administrators to see if they want anything from it, and then it goes to the sale. So is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve the district surplus list.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the district surplus. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the district surplus list has been approved to pass. And now we go down to another community comment period. Has anyone dialed in or in waiting? No? Okay. And we have gone through our list here, so we will go then to board member comments. And I will start just down at the end of the table. Sandy, would you like to, sorry to put you on the spot.
My mind was reading notes, I apologize. So board member comments. I always want to appreciate staff for everything that they do, but at this time, end of the year, also want to recognize those that are, resigning and moving on for the time that they have given to the district. And we appreciate everybody that comes, whether they stay for a year or, 20 or 30 years. We appreciate the time and dedication that you've given to the district for that. Other than that, I just want to say I enjoyed the Forest Festival Parade. The robotics team was driving a little Mason Transit remote control bus down in the parade, and the name of the bus was Mason, since it's Mason Transit, but it was painted up to look like a Mason Transit bus and whatnot. And so, since I'm also on the MTA board, that was kind of like, oh, double kudos.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sandy. Matt.
Congratulations to the folks out receiving the awards tonight for the academies. I look forward to seeing a lot more of the awards as we move forward into the future with these academies and all the work that's being done. Super cool to see all the books. Looking forward to seeing the kids drag those home and keep things going on towards that strategic plan. I think this is super important. I love the community involvement, and I love people showing up. I wish it was for more than just hot button items, but one of the things that absolutely kills me is people show up, they say their piece, and then they leave, and they don't hear that we're addressing things after that. 5.02 directly is working towards notification and getting it out there and addressing that there's other languages and all of these things. It's counterproductive to leave before the end of these meetings. And there's 50 plus seats out here, all of the benches. I would love to see them full. For everybody in TV land, these are your kids that we're working for. We do listen. We are working towards these things. We're doing everything that the law requires. And stick around. Come and voice your opinion. Ask questions. If we can't answer them right here, ask us to put it on the agenda. I guarantee it'll be on it. We're doing our best, and love to see more of you. So, there you go.
All right, thank you, Matt. I might correct you on that, though. Sometimes things are best done in a community forum and not necessarily a formal board meeting. And so I think that there's, I would say that we, as board members, have made a commitment to listen to our community and try to answer any questions in whatever appropriate way we possibly can. Sure. So yes, just want to correct that just a little bit.
I stand corrected.
An agenda for some type of meeting. It may not be a board meeting. It could be a different type. All right, Director Best.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed the last 3 days of summer. Now that we're back to fall. No, I just want to say a big thanks to Stacy. My wife has been active in the child care programs here in Shelton in the high school and the choice for years. And she's had nothing but praise about your leadership. And I just want to, I always watch people, and during the graduation ceremony, I just watched you up there. And the best way I could describe it, and I mean this in sincere praise and honor, is that you were like Mama Bear. You're a proud Mama Bear. Your kids were coming through, and you could see that you were sharing in their success. And that articulates your presence at Choice. It's going to be a challenge to find someone with that commitment, but I'm sure that you're going to, as you say, you're in the community, you're a cat forever. They will have some behind the scenes guidance, I'm sure. But I just want to say thank you so much for all the years, because it's a challenging set of individuals we've been having to deal with over the years, but the success rate speaks for itself. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And I want to say thank you for running the last meeting, since I was traveling and not able to be here for that. So some of my comments are going to be a little delayed because I wasn't here to say how great all of the graduations were. And they were all very meaningful and wonderful to see, especially, I mean, I did enjoy the effort and the different ceremonies that we did during the pandemic, but it was just really nice to be able to be back in with, you know, parents and family members, able to have, you know, Cedars ceremony, Choices ceremony, and Shelton High School back at St. Martin Pavilion where everybody could be there. I thought that, you know, each one was well done. Thank you to all of the principals and their staff for putting those together. And it was great to celebrate. I mean, that's one of the best parts of being on the school board, is that each year we get to see students walk across and celebrate each individual one. And it's, as I mentioned before when I was talking to you, Stacy, being able to hear some of those individual student stories, whether it was the speakers at Cedar or Choice or our valedictorians or the class speakers that got to speak at Shelton High School's graduation. It's just wonderful to be able to have a chance to hear the individual stories and to remember how much that class went through. I mean, it just is not lost on me that, you know, many of those kids, they started their 9th grade year and then it was interrupted their sophomore and junior year. So there was just a lot of social interaction that was interrupted. Sports, clubs were stopped. They, you know, they really went through a lot, and it was nice to see them excited and celebrate and be able to do that with their friends and family all right there. So I know you all probably made your graduation comments, but it was really nice to be a part of that. I also was able to go to my oldest daughter's moving on ceremony. I personally can't believe I'm going to have a freshman in high school next year, but the OBGH moving on ceremony was also very nice, very well done. They invited all of the family members to come to that, and each student was called by name, much to their embarrassment because they're in junior high and don't want to be called out, but it was really a nice ceremony to see too. And I know Marilyn is not here. She and I have spoken, but I do want to thank Marilyn Ward for her time spent on the school board. It was wonderful to get a chance to meet her, to talk with her. We all learned to, you know, work with each other and had a wonderful chemistry. And so there is an open position on the school board now. That application has been posted on the school district website. So we as a school board have 90 days basically to get those applications and do interviews, and we need to fill that spot within 90 days. So that is the time frame that we've got going for that. And I just want to thank Marilyn for her time and commitment to the students here while she was on the school board. I've heard nothing but good things about summer school. I actually saw on social media that some of the kids in elementary school got to go to the zoo. So it's nice to see that, you know, they did different learnings on habitat, and then we're able to go, you know, do a field trip, which I also think is wonderful because I know a lot of those have been interrupted over time. It sounds like the math camp up at the Ridge is going very well, so I'm excited that kids get to have that hands-on and community partnership there. So I think all of that has been great. I too want to thank community members for coming here tonight and advocating for what is important to them. It's always nice for us to hear from parents, and in the past to hear from any students that come up and speak too. And I definitely want people to know that we are here to listen, and we may not be able to answer some things immediately because of the structure of some of these meetings, but that doesn't mean that we're not trying to find opportunities and ways which we can do that. And I do know that, as with many at this time of the year, now that we've gone through graduations and it is the end of the school year, we are coming on a time when many people in the school district finally take a vacation. So things will be a little quiet for the next couple of weeks possibly, and we will be doing school board meetings in July and August, but we definitely want to make sure that we're not missing people who are out on vacation, and that we are having some of these meetings at times where we can reach both our public and have our school district employees be available for those things. With that, I will say we don't have any reason for an executive session tonight. So if anyone would like to move to adjourn the meeting, that's all we have left.
Can I ask a real quick question? Sorry.
Yes, you may.
Do I remember correctly that July will only have one board meeting?
I think, I'm not totally sure at this time what the schedule is for that. Because of my traveling and then Wyeth not being here tonight, I know Brenda and I were just talking about that. We think it's going to be one meeting in July, but I'm not sure yet. That's something that I need to get nailed down.
Okay.
And that will obviously be posted publicly once we figure that out. I think it'll be definitely have one towards the end of July. The first meeting in July we may not be having, but I'm not positive yet.
Okay.
I've just got to see how we've got to go about that.
Thank you. And with that, I would make a motion for adjournment.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming tonight.